Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Big Brace and welcome to a new video with Kivy web development framework. This is where I'm going to show you how to do a very simple task manager or task tracker. It's basically a CRUD application, right? Where we can create, read, update, and delete. If I've just showed you the last video how to do a hello world, in this video we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to write more than hello world, right? This is basically it. The application itself is very basic. You have a list of tasks. The ones that are not checked, obviously not yet done. So you have here a flight to London on Tuesday 29th. You can check that if it's already done. You can uncheck it. You can delete it. Okay, we can add a task. Let's say, for instance, buy potatoes, because I love potatoes, and let's make that today on 22nd. Save, and it's going to be saved in the list. Now if you will close the application and let me just run it again, you will find all of your tasks are the same, right? So if we will delete everything and we'll close the app again, open, you will find your task manager empty. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to write some SQLite 3, which is already installed. Once, if you have Python, then you have SQLite 3. It's the default database management system provided by Python. All right, so let's not waste time, roll up our sleeves and get started. And the first thing that I want to do is to just go to my folder, and I will have I will create a folder called dev. Go to dev, and we'll say task manager app. All right, and let me create main.py. I also want main.kivy, which is the code that we haven't written the last time. So in this video we're going to write some Kivy code basically, and the last file that I need is the one for the database, and I'm going to call it database. All right, that's all. By itself it's going to generate a DB file. Okay, so don't worry about writing actual SQL code. We're going to write that, but inside Python using SQLite 3. Okay, let me now open the project in Visual Studio Code. You bring that here. All right, cool. Let me close that. And the first thing that you will want is from KivyMD .app to import the MD app. This is the main application. Without it, we won't do anything. And I want to write a main class called main app, and it takes MD app as the main parameter. And I want a function called build, and it takes self as the main input. And first of all, I want to set the palette, the color of the theme itself, right? So I'm going to do it orange color, but you can do any other color you want. There is a list of colors. You can check that in documentation. There is a specific list of colors that you will need to enter as it's written, right? You can just type orange or blue, or it should be B capital, or if it's two words, then it should be attached with both words capitalized, both first letters capitalized. So yeah, if you want to do that, we'll do self.theme_cls.primary, not color, but we want the palette. So the name of the color scheme that the application will use. All major material components will have the color of the specified color. So the color that I want here is orange. You can do teal, for instance. Let's change it for teal. And of course you can do if name is equal to main, but really this is old and more code for nothing. So at the end of the application, we can declare a variable called app, and we will assign to it the main app that we have, the main app class that we've created above, and then we're going to run it. All right, now by itself, it won't do anything. So we will need to go to the Kivy file, and let's write some Kivy code. So we want a class, and this class, I will call it MD or material design float layout. Okay, so let's indent hitting 1 tab or 4 spaces, right? So either way it should work. And we need a label, and in this label I'm going to write task manager or task tracker, as you like. So I'm going to give it an ID. I'm going to call it task underscore label. Also, I want to horizontally align the text to be in the center, and I want to set the markup to true, and I want the text to be in form of string, and here I'm going to write task manager. You can also make it bold. So we have these tags. B, you should close also at the end of the word. It's like the HTML tags. Also, you can make it underlined. So you can make U at the beginning and U at the end, like that. We can also give the text some font size. So I'm going to give it size equal to 48. And let's also just close everything. By the way, this is not correct. Be like that. And also we should close the size tag here, like this. Okay, so we're giving it bold, underline, and the size. All right, so the position here, or pose underscore hint, this is in the form of an object, and I want the y axis to be 0.45. Okay, this is as far as the label is concerned. I want also the scroll view like that. S and V are capitalized. And again, I want the pose underscore hint, and here we'll say for the center underscore Y, and I will set this to 0.5. I don't know, what did I do? 0.5. And the center X, center underscore X, I want to set it to also 0.5. Then the size underscore hint, it's going to be 0.9 and 0.8. Also, I want, let's get back here, I want the list, the MD list, to have an ID of container. All right, cool. The last thing that I want to do for the moment is the MD floating action button, because we need that button, right? The button that you will click to add a task. So let me just add some spaces here. This is MD floating action button, and I want the icon. Also in the documentation you can choose any icon that you want, but I want the plus and I want it thick, like bold for the icon. On release, but later actually we're going to add that function, right? So for the moment we can just leave it like that for the moment. Elevation underscore normal is 12, and the position or pose underscore hint is equal to, so we have the X, right? And the X is 0.45. And this is the position of that button. I want it to be in the middle down. So X 0.45 and Y 0.04. So Y. And this is by different trial and error. So no one just told me I need to put it 0.45 and 0.04. I tried it many times until I got the right position that I was looking for. That's it for the moment. Let's get back. Let's actually open our integrated terminal. So don't forget, in any project, not only in Kivy, in any Python project, you will need to create a virtual environment. This is very important for your dependencies and packages to not mix up with the global system, with the global file system. You want all of your packages and dependencies to be isolated from your global system inside your specific project. And I'm using pipenv shell command to activate my virtual environment. And if you don't have pipenv, you can install it via pip install pipenv. Once the virtual environment is created successfully, you can now install Kivy and KivyMD, both on the same line. Now let's go ahead and try our application, Python main.py. Let's see what we have so far. And we have an error. Okay, ID container. Okay, this is an indentation error. So the indentation is obviously very important here. All right, so let's try that again. And we have another error. Oh, I forgot the equal sign here. Okay, sorry for that, guys. So as you can see, we have here our task manager in the middle of the screen and our button in the middle down. Of course, when we click, nothing happens, but this is what we're going to add later. This we will have a function that's assigned to onRelease. So let's close it for the moment and let's shut our terminal. Let's get back to main.py. Okay, cool. Next, what I want to do is to add some packages. All right, so let's do from KivyMD.uix, which stands for user interface experience. Maybe, I'm not really sure. .dialog, I want to import MD dialog, and also let's make it like that. And instead of dialog, I want the box layout. I want to import also MD box layout. You will notice that MD is always capital and the first letter of the word is also capitalized. Also, I want the date picker where you can choose the date that you want for your task. So instead of box layout, I want pickers, package, and here is the MD date picker. Okay, there is also MD time picker. Yeah. You can choose the time that you want, but we're not going to add this. And last but not least, I want the datetime. From datetime, I want to import datetime. Okay, cool. Let's just decrease the distance between. You know what? I said I will not do it, but yeah, okay. Just to make it look clean, if name is equal to main, I'll do it like that. Okay, the first class that I want, apart from the main class of course, is the dialog content. So this will open a dialog box that gets the task from you, from the user. So this class, I'm going to call it dialog content. And it's going to take MD box layout as parameter, and then I want the init method. And if you don't know the init method, I think you might want to read a little bit about object-oriented programming, but this is a very important. Function to do. This is the first function actually that you will need to do when you are constructing a class. And it takes self, and it also takes asterisk quargs, and quargs stands for keyword arguments, and I have a video where I'm explaining what is args and what is quargs. I will leave the link to these videos in the description below, where you'll find some cards appearing right now. You can check them out if you want. Then we want super, and again, this is inheritance or class inheritance. We're inheriting from the super class all the properties and methods. So again, you will need to read a little bit about object-oriented programming, or if you know already what's that, so cool, let's move on. Asterisk quargs. Now I want to set self.ids. IDs, first of all, is for each task we're going to have a unique ID, and IDs is a dictionary of unique IDs defined in the Kivy, because in Kivy we'll have different IDs. Each task will have a unique ID. Date underscore text. So this is the date's text, but I want that text property inside it to be equal to datetime.now stir format time, and we're going to format it in this order. So &a, small d, $b, capital, and $y. So this is the init function for class constructor. This function will show the date picker, so I'm going to call it show underscore date underscore picker, and it takes self as the main parameter. So date underscore dialog is going to be equal to the date picker class. Next, what I want is to save that date. So we'll need a function. Actually, this function will will get the date and saves it in a friendly form, and I'm going to call it on underscore save, and it takes self, it takes instance, it takes value, and the date range. And then what we want is, first of all, the date, and the date here is going to be equal to the value dot stir format time, the same thing as we have done here. We need the same time format. All right, cool. Then I want self dot again IDs dot date underscore text dot text to be equal to that date, and don't forget to wrap around it the stir function to convert it to a string instead of integer. And now we can bind that date dialog to that save on save function. So on underscore save is equal to self dot on save, and let's make it like that. And by the way, I need to add here task underscore list underscore dialog. I will set this initially to none. This is just a flag that we're going to use later. This is the build function for setting the theme. And then the next function is a very important one, which will show the task dialog. Okay, we're going to create a task basically. So this is the create task function, we might say. It's not going to create, but at least will show that it's better even to write it this way instead of create task function. This is the show task function. So I'm gonna call it that, def show task function. Then we want to say that if not self.taskList dialog, that's why I've set it here as a flag above here to say if not self.taskList dialog. In this case, I want self.taskList dialog to be equal to the material design dialog, open parentheses, and we'll have different keyword arguments here. So the first keyword argument is going to be the title, and the title I'm going to say create task. The second one is the type, and the type is custom, and then content underscore CLS is equal to the dialog content class. Okay, and then below here the self.taskList dialog, we're going to take it and open it. Okay, so this is the main task, not task, the main purpose of that function. Okay, don't want to use words that might confuse you. This is the main purpose of that show task function, is basically to show the task function, which we're going to use, by the way, in main.kivy. You remember on release we left it empty. Now we can write app.show underscore task underscore dialog. When we'll click on the button, we will have this task dialog shown to us. Now let's go ahead quickly and close the dialog. So we'll have a function called close dialog. Again, it takes self and quarks. Okay, and task list dialog dot close, not close, dismiss, I think. Dismiss, yep. Okay, this is all what it does. And the last function I want is to add tasks, right? Maybe better to put this here. So adding tasks, add underscore task, and again it takes self, it takes the task, and it takes the task date. We want basically to print for the moment, but later we're going to change that. We're going to print that in the terminal, task.text and task date as well. All right, do you see any bugs, any errors? So we have the main or the init function. We have the show date picker on save, and then inside the main app we have the build to make the color. We have show task dialog, add task, and close dialog. We want also to do some changes in the main.kivy file. And the first thing that you would want is dialog content class. So this is inside the task dialog, right? The content of the task dialog. So you want the orientation to be vertical. You want also spacing to be equal 10 dp, or density pixel, there is dp, sp, centimeters. Again, in the documentation, everything is very well written, so you won't get lost. Size underscore hint is 1, and the second parameter is none. So this is the width and the height, and the height here is 130 dp. Okay, the grid layout, which is just exactly that. This is the layout of the grid in the task dialog. We want only one row. Also, I want the text field, or the material design text field, and here the ID is equal to task underscore text, and hint text we will say add task. Also, the position underscore hint, we have the center. The center Y is set to 0.4, and also the max underscore text length is set to 50. Also on text validate, so on text validate, and this is very important because what we want basically is to add the task to the app, to the main app, right? So app.add underscore task, and the parameters that we have is the task underscore text, the date underscore text dot text. Okay, and later we want to close app.close underscore dialog. Alright, now for the icon button, we will have this little icon button where you can choose the date. So it's a calendar, it has a calendar icon. So MD icon button. Okay, indent again. The icon is calendar. And again on release, on underscore release, we are going to use the show date picker function. So root dot show underscore date underscore picker function, which is right here above here in the dialog content, this one, show date picker. Okay, so on release, root dot show date picker function to be triggered or to be called. Also the padding, we are giving it 10 dp. All right, let's see the indentation. This should be under the grid layout. Be careful with the indentation, it's very important. So the MD label, so I'm giving it spacing to be 10 dp, and the ID is equal to the date underscore text. For the box layout, the orientation is going to be horizontal. All right, perfect. Also, I want basically, you want two buttons, right? One to save or one to cancel. MD raised button. I'm going to, because one I wanted raised, the button itself is a bit raised, not flat. So this is the button where you're going to save. This is the one which is going to be raised. MD raised button, and the text is save. Let's make it capital and on release. I'm going to take the app.add underscore task, again task text. Also we want the date text dot text, and closing the dialog, close underscore dialog function. And the second one, let me just copy this. So instead of raised button, we're going to say flat button, MD flat button. Okay, and instead of save, we want cancel. And instead of all that, we want just to close the dialog. So app.close the dialog. And that's it. This is everything that we should write in the main.kivy. I hope it's clear enough for you guys. Alright, so let's just take a quick look. I'm pretty sure I did the typo somewhere. Maybe not. Alright. This, by the way, is args, not quarks, only arguments. And here I forgot double underscore. Okay, init. Alright, sounds good. Let's take a look to the Kivy file. Alright, yeah, there is indentation here. So make sure that they are intended for one tab. Okay, save that. Okay, looks good. Let's go ahead and run our app, python main.py. Alright, perfect. So if we will click, okay, now we have this task dialog. And if we'll click, nothing happens. Okay, if I'm going to add a task, let's try that first, and then we will tackle this issue. Save, it's saving and showing here, printing on in the terminal. Okay, let's see why. Actually, oh, I see. We didn't open it. So you will need to take date dialog dot open. Now let's run that again and see. Yeah, okay. So that was it. So now I want to work on two different things. The first thing will be the two-line avatar icon list items. So for each task you will have the task itself. On the left side you will have the checkbox. On the right side you will have the trash bin to delete that task if you want to delete it. So let's take from KivyMD.uix.list. I want to import two-line avatar icon list item. That's too long to say. And also I want I left body. There is I left body and I right body. And also from KivyMD uix.selection control. Selection control. I want to import the checkbox. So let's go beyond the dialog content class and create a new class above the main app. Oops. Okay. So this class basically will have custom list item, and I'm going to call it list item with checkbox. So list item with checkbox. And inside here we'll take the two-line avatar icon list item. Then we want the init method. Okay, self. I will need a primary key, which is the unique identifier for each list item, and this is by default equal to none, and keyword arguments. So again, inheritance super dot init, and here also quarks. and the self dot primary key equal to primary key. And as I told you, for the 2-line avatar icon list item, we will need the checkbox and the delete icon. So I will need 2 functions, one to mark when the item itself is checked, and one to delete. So both functions serve the purpose of both icons. So the first function, I'm going to call it mark. It's going to take self as first parameter, check, and the list item itself, the list item. We will say if check dot active is equal to true. In this case, I want to add this strike through to the text as you saw in the demo. So to do that, I will take the list item dot text, and it's going to be equal that list item dot text, and I'm going to wrap around it a strike tag. So but this is between brackets like that, concatenated with the list item. Like this. Okay. Else, then for the moment we will pass. But later we will add some code to remove that strike through. Okay, the next function, to delete item. Delete item, it takes self and it takes the list item itself. The list. Okay, this simply as the name entails, it deletes the item. So I will say self dot parent dot remove widget method, and I will remove the list item. That's it. So this is deleting the list item, and this is marking the item as complete or incomplete. And let me also add a comment here, class for marking and deleting the list item. All right, the next class that I will need, for the moment I will leave it empty, but just I will call it left checkbox. And this is simply for that checkbox on the left side where you will tick it done or not done. So it will take the iLeft body and the MD checkbox. So this is it for the moment, and let's just get back to the add task function and add the widget. So we'll say self dot root dot IDs sub container dot add underscore widget, and here inside I will take the list item with checkbox. And also I want to, by the way, when we write one task and we add it, we want to clear the input field. So task dot, I forgot to do this before, is equal empty string. Okay, this is to clear the input field. I want to enter also some parameters or arguments. Basically it's arguments. These arguments will be, first of all, the text. So the text here will be the task dot text, and I want it to be bold. So to do that, we're going to put these tags. I'm going to put here B in single quotes or double quotes, doesn't matter. B concatenated with that, just make like that. All right, So the new task that you're going to add is going to be in bold. And I want also secondary text, which is going to be the date or the task date. So secondary underscore task is equal to the task. And let's go to the Kivy file, and I'm going to add here below another class. I'm going to call it list item with checkbox. So list item with checkbox. This is our class in main.py file. And then I want to have some arguments, right? So the ID is the list item. Also the markup, I want to set it to true. Also the left check box will have an ID of check, and on release we'll have the root. We'll use the mark function that we've created, and we will enter check as first parameter, the list item as second parameter or argument in this case. So this is for the left checkbox, and I want the icon on the right, which is the trash bin. So icon right widget. The icon, I want it, it's called like that. Don't try to change anything. This is in the documentation. You will find trash -can -outline. You can also choose its color, so I'm going to choose a red color. You can leave it like this, it will be black by default. But to change, first of all, you will need to say theme underscore text underscore color custom, and then the text color is 1001, and then on release, which means on click, I want to delete underscore item method, and I will pass the list item as the argument. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. Okay, cool. Adding, let's add a task. Jogging. Let's choose a date, 24th. Okay, save. And we have an error. MD list object has no attribute add widget O. Okay, so in the add task container, okay, widget, sorry for that. Let's run that again. Let's try again to add painting with my wife, 24th, save. So what's the problem? Secondary task, it's secondary text should be. What did I write? Secondary task? Oh, you know, with the speed you can do such errors. That's okay. But you see, we are debugging that together. Let's do that again. Jogging. Choosing a date, 26th, save. And boom. Perfect. This is working. This is working fine. I'm going to add later that function that removes that strike through. So far everything is working as expected. Delete, it deletes. Perfect. So the only thing that is remaining now is to code our database. So let's go ahead and do that. And the first thing that you want to do is to import the SQLite 3. And we're going to create a class called database. This is going to be the main class here. We're going to instantiate a class basically, and we're going to use that object in the different functions. We're going to see that later, but for now I want to create init method takes self, and we're going to take the self object dot con and then the SQLite 3 dot connect, and we want to create a database file. Because this is basically a Python file, we will need to store all the tasks, all the data basically in a database, in a DB format file, not a Python file. And you can give it any name you want. I'm going to give it a name of task-db, or that's confusing, task-database.db. Okay, this is going to be the file that's going to be generated here in our project, in the directory automatically. Then self.cursor, and if you're confused about what's the cursor, the connection, I have different tutorials on SQLite 3, on PostgreSQL. I have a crash course on MySQL. So it might be very helpful if you don't know what's that, to just start by the first 2 videos of SQLite 3 in the channel. I will leave the link to these videos in the description below. But for now, I want to take the selfobject.con.cursor. So this is the init function. And if you again don't know what's init, you'll need to read a little bit about object-oriented programming, the init, the inheritance, and all of that. And now we will need the different functions that will basically serve the purpose of creating, reading, updating, and deleting. But before we create the task, we will need the table in the database. Any database is composed of different tables. Sometimes it's composed of only one table, like in this case, for instance, we'll have only one table. For now, we want to create that function that will create the table itself. I'm going to create that function, create underscore task underscore table. And it takes self as the main parameter. So this function here, right? And then I'm going to take the self.cursor.execute. This is going to be repeated all over the functions that we're going to be creating. So self.cursor.execute, I'm taking the cursor that we have created above, and then we're going to execute a database statement. So basically what we want to do is to create table if it doesn't exist. So in the database, if that table under the name whatever doesn't exist, in this case create it. Create table if not exists, and it's just by general convention that we write the statements in capital letters. But if you will write that in small letters, it will do the same thing, it will work. So create table if not exists, and the name of that table is going to be tasks. And in that tasks table, we want different records. So any table is consisted of different rows and different columns. So what we're going to write here is the fields, basically, right? The columns. So the first column is going to be the ID. And that ID is of integer data type. It's going to be a primary key, and also is going to be auto-incremented, auto-increment. And auto-increment simply means that it's going to be auto-incremented, right? It's simple as that. You don't have to type 1, 2, 3, 4 manually. It's going to be updated automatically each time you add a new task. Then I want a second field, and this is going to be the task itself. And it has a data type of variable character, or var of maximum length of 50 characters. And it's going to be not null. And not null simply is a constraint, which means that this field should not be empty. And also I want a completed field or completed column. And this is going to be of Boolean data type. Boolean, right? Because it should be true or false, right? Completed or not completed. It's going to be Boolean and also not null, which means should contain a value, true or false. And also going to be checked, and then completed is going to choose between 0 and 1, which means true or false, completed or incompleted. And then after we are going to commit any changes to the database file that we are creating here above. So self.con.commit. Then let's go above here and do self.create task table, just for the init method to take in consideration the task table. If you will not enter this, and then if you will try to add a task, you will have an error telling you that we cannot find the tasks table. So be careful. In the init method, you should include self.createTaskTable. All right, so this is for creating the tasks table. We need now to create the task itself. So here, creating the task. All right, and I'm going to call that function simply create task, and it takes inside self as first parameter task, and then due date, because we won't insert each task in the tasks table. We want the task, the due date, and is it completed or incompleted. We want to take self, the object itself, dot cursor dot execute, and we want to say insert, and again this is another SQL statement. We're saying insert into the tasks table, the task itself, the due date, and completed, which is Boolean, like we have specified here above, right? And then still inside the double quotes, then we want the values. So the values here, question mark, question mark, question mark, and then respectively we want them as placeholders for the task, the due date, and 00 means here incompleted. This is the default value for the completed, right? So let's just make it like that. This is the default value. You can make it 1 as completed, but it doesn't make sense, right? If you just entered a new task, you expect to wait some time until it's fulfilled, it's done, basically. And again, we're going to commit self.con.commit to our database file. Also, what I want here is to get the last entered item, so we can add it to the task list. So let's say here, getting the last entered item, so we can add it to the task list. Let me create that variable. I will call it created task, self.cursor.execute, and then I'm going to select everything, so the ID, the task, and the due date from the tasks table, where, and this is a clause, this is a where clause, where the task is equal to question mark and completed is equal to 0, which means incompleted yet. Then here is the task as an input, and then at the end of it, fetch all. And as I want the last entered task, it will be -1. So as it starts with 0, so all tasks starts from our list basically, and this is in programming in general. This is 0 index base, so 0, 1. So the first task is 0, the second task is 1, and so on. And if you want to get the last item on the list, it will be -1. So return created task -1. And just minimize a little bit for you guys to see better. Now we want to get the tasks. So let's create that function, get underscore tasks. Also it takes self. And here I want to get everything, all the tasks completed and incompleted. So getting all tasks completed and incompleted. Okay, good. Now the incompleted underscore tasks, I'm going to have two variables basically in this function, and then we're going to return them. So one is incompleted tasks and the second one is completed tasks. The incompleted tasks is going to be equal self dot, again, cursor dot execute, and we want to select the ID, the task, and the due date from the tasks table, where completed completed is equal to 0, right? Which is the default. Dot fetch all method, and basically the complete is going to be the same, except that the completed is equal to 1. We're going to change the name of the variable, otherwise all the same. And then by the end of it, we're going to return them, incompleted and completed. Also, we want to update, so this here is for updating the tasks, whether completed or incompleted. And what that means is we want to mark any completed task with that strike through, right? Otherwise, we will leave it as it is, incompleted with the bold font. So let's create now two functions. One, we will call it mark task as completed, and it takes self and the task ID. Then, so here, let's add the doc string. I'll say mark tasks as completed. So again, we'll say self.cursor.execute, and I want to update the tasks. I want to set completed to 1, where the ID is equal question mark, which means that whatever the task in question is going to be completed or incompleted, right? That's why we follow that by the task ID here in the parameter. And that's it. Self.connection.commit. Basically, the incompleted is the same thing. So mark tasks as incompleted. Here, incompleted. The parameters are exactly the same. And here, instead of 1, should be 0. What we want to do now is to return the task text. So the task text in this case, task underscore text, this is a variable, and it's equal to self.cursor.execute. And we're going to select the task from the tasks table, where the ID is equal to a question mark. And again, we have the task ID as a parameter. And this is it basically, but don't forget to do fetch all. And return the task underscore text sub-0, which means the text of the first item. Great. The only thing that is remaining in the class is to delete and to close the connection as well. So here, deleting. Right, so def delete underscore task, it takes self and the task ID. So another doc string. And simply we'll say self.cursor.execute, and we want to delete from the tasks table, where the ID is equal to whatever that task that you're going to choose. And we are committing as always. And then finally we want to close the connection, right? So def close close db connection. And we will say self.con.dismiss .close, right? I was confused between close and dismiss methods. All right, great. So we are basically done with our database. I hope that everything was clear to you guys, even if for those who are not fully aware of everything in SQL, you will need just to have or to know the basics in order to understand everything here. All right, sweet. So the last thing that we need to do, actually I want to do a couple of things before. The first thing is to import from the database file the database class, and then I want to instantiate that class, that database class, and we're going just to declare any variable name that you want. I'm just simply going to call it db because it's short. So db is equal to the database class. So here importing the database class from database file. Here instantiating the database class by creating a db object. And this db object, by the way, we're going to use it now. So let's go to Mark. Yeah. So here instead we have said that if the check is active, then we're going to put a strike through over the task text itself. Else we left it blank, pass, right? So I will say the list item dot text is equal to db dot mark task as incompleted, and then I'm going to choose that list item dot primary key, and we're going to wrap all that in a stir function or stir method, right? Because we want to convert that into a string and not into a boolean. Here also I would like to add the db dot mark as completed, and we'll take the list item dot the primary key. All right, so this is for that, and also for deleting. So self.parent, that's fine, but I want to take the db.delete task that we've created in the database file, and also the list item dot primary key. All right, and also for the add task function, I'll come here, and instead of printing just in the terminal, now we will use our database. So basically I will create a variable first. I will declare a variable. I will call it created task, and this is going to be equal to the database dot create task, and it will take the task dot text and the task underscore date. And then before the text here, I want to set the primary key to be equal the created task 0, which means the first task or the first task item, and also the text that's fine with bold, and instead of that task text, we're going to get the created task which is in the database. So created task 1, because this is the second field, right? So the first field, the 0, the first field, the 0 is the primary key. The second field is the task text itself, and then the last one is going to be the date. Okay, hope this is clear for you guys. And we're going to leave it in the bold, right? Instead of just having the task.text, we're going to dynamically fetch it from the database. And the secondary task is equal to, again, created task 2. So one final thing we want to create, I'm going to create here a function. Basically, we'll load the saved tasks and we'll add them to the list widget. So by convention, it's called onStart, but you can call it anything you want. It has a template as you saw, but we're going to change that template. We don't need it. So let me add just a docstring here. So this is to load the saved tasks and add them to the empty list widget. Right, so completed. All right, so let me declare two variables here, completed underscore tasks and incompleted underscore tasks, and this is equal to db dot the get tasks method that we have created in the database file. So we're going to check now if incompleted tasks is equal to an empty list. So we're going to use the for loop to iterate through the incompleted task. So for task in incompleted tasks, add underscore task, which is a new variable, is going to be equal to list item with checkbox method, and primary key here is task sub 0. The text is equal to task sub 1, and the secondary task is equal to task sub 2. Then we're going to add it to the widget. So self.root.ids, and IDs here is a dictionary of IDs defined in the Kivy language. Also, it says that this will only be populated if you use IDs in your Kivy language code, which we do. .container .add underscore widget, and we're going to pass the add task variable. So this is in case of incompleted tasks is not an empty list. Good, but what if the completed tasks is not equal to an empty list? In this case, we're also going to iterate through the completed tasks. So for task in completed tasks, also I'm declaring another variable called add task, but this add variable is specific to that block scope. So the add task is again equal to list item with checkbox, and in this case the posting key is equal to task sub 0. The text is equal to task sub 1, and we want to wrap that task in those strike through tags. So s, there should be a string concatenated, and we'll also close it. So /s, and we close it with that bracket, and then the last parameter is the secondary text to be equal to task sub 2, which is the date, right? So we have a primary key as always, a primary key, text, and the date. These are the three parameters basically that we have in our list. And then we want to just to check it as active. So add task.ids.check.active, we will set that to true. Then self.root.ids.container.add underscore widget, and here we will have the add task as the parameter like we did with the incompleted tasks. All right, and that's basically it. So let's go and do Python main.py, no such column, due date. Oh, we haven't actually added the due date. So yeah, all right. Due date is going to be also of variable character varchar of maximum length of 50 characters. Okay, that makes sense now. All right, so yeah, moment of truth. Let's go ahead and try that. But first, let me just open the Explorer to show you that that DB file is going to be automatically created here when we will run our application. And eventually we're going to bump into some bugs and errors. I'm pretty sure of it. So I hope not, of course, but yeah, it always does. So Python main.py. All right, so you see that task-database.db, the same file name that we've given in the database file. And inside here, in that database file, all our list items are going to be stored. So let's try to add a task. Okay, good. So adding, no problem. This is still working. Perfect. Let's say jogging. Let's save, and perfect. Let's try to close that and left the application with no errors. Oh, by the way, due date, I want to give it none as default. Right, I told you we'll find errors. Type error, properties, secondary task. Oh, secondary text, not task. This is my mistake. I'm sure we'll find it here, but should be set. There we go. Secondary text, not task. I was just confused there. And there it is. Secondary text, and here is okay. So it's only in this code block. All right, let's try that again. Okay, great. Can we delete it? Oh, we have another error. Delete from tasks where ID. Okay, error binding parameter 0, probably unsupported type. So db.delete. Oh, the list item dot primary key. Right, I hope this will fix the problem. Right, let's delete, and it's deleted. Perfect. Let's add again. It's adding again. Running. Let's change reading a book tomorrow, let's say. Save that, close that, open again, and it's done. This is not supposed to be this way because I left it unchecked. Let's check out the database. Maybe we'll find something wrong here. So mark task as completed. I don't find anything. The only thing that I'm suspecting is not correct is the returning order. So if we'll return the completed tasks first and then the incompleted tasks, and I think it should work. Let's try that. Okay, so this is a good start. We don't have these strike through over the texts. Another task, let's say for instance playing FIFA 23. Save, good, in bold. Let's close the application, fingers crossed. Fantastic. Very good. So indeed it was in the order. You need to return the completed first and then the incompleted. And yeah, if we will do like that, if we will check one as completed and we'll close the application and we'll open, you will find it at the bottom, and you will find that the incompleted at the top. So yeah, we have written the application, we've done some debugging together. I apologize if this video is a little bit long. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial, guys. Thank you so much for being with me during this time. I can't believe even that you have watched the whole thing, so for that I'm really grateful. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comment section below, and until the next time, stay safe and be well. See you later, guys.